Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Welcome
everyone.
to Entire Breakfast. And today we're doing this in a little bit new format. If you've been watching our previous events, then what is happening is this time we're not going to talk about something to you, but I'm trying to interview Raivis here because despite what's been said on the email, it was only you who went.
Yeah, in the end, it was only me in London, exactly.
Yes. So tell me, how was it? Where were you? Why did you go?
Right, yeah. I visited the Learning Technologies in London, which I and probably many other people consider the best show in Europe concerning learning technologies. But actually, it's not only about technologies like platforms or tools. There's a lot of talk about how to do things, how to do instructional design, visual design, everything around learning. So technology there is kind of a broader meaning than you would usually expect. So it's basically an exhibition which runs in parallel with the conference, exhibition being free of charge and conference obviously not. Why I went...
You went to both parts?
Yeah, I went to both parts, which is a bit harsh because you have to manage both and both are very, very intense. You don't have a lot of time for exhibition if you're on conference. So you have to think about how you're going to do that. A good suggestion would be to go as a team, and split and have some zones of responsibility, because what happens on the exhibition, you have 11 stages running demos and, showing things, explaining things. In parallel, you have a conference where you sometimes have also 4 tracks going kind of in parallel. So you really have to pick and choose where you're going. So, one of our long-standing clients was there with 6 people, so they were, I think, able to cover the bases, so to say.
Right. In my experience with expos is from the other side. I typically I either go to just the exhibition part, which can also be daunting even without the conference, or I'm exhibiting there, and it's super frustrating when you stand in your booth and there's pretty much no one, and just the exhibitors talking to each other, like walking around, and then hey, here's the break in the conference, and 1,000 people who are the top-notch buyers, like people who make buying decisions like you, they will just rush out. They have 20 minutes to go around the exhibition, and you try to catch them. It's a rush, and then in 20 minutes, boom, they're gone. The next session begins, and it's empty again. And then there is lunch, which is like an hour and a half, but they want to eat as well. They want to queue to get their whatever.
And they want to network, sandwiches. To be honest. They also have kind of the third track running. Yeah,
they have each other to talk to one another. That's true. So that can be frustrating. So what Raivis has done for us, he created like a list of bullet points that we wanted to go through. I'm not too familiar with what you're going to talk about this time, but I have the bullet points. So, and I know that first of all, we'll talk about your kind of takeaways from the expo, the gist of the state of learning of 2024, maybe going into 2025. And then there are a couple of tools that you wanted to highlight, and we'll talk about that. And of course, there's a whole slide devoted to AI. So we'll talk about that as well. Was that a big topic? I assume it was.
As we were joking, AI was, if not on every slide, but definitely in every presentation. Not mentioning AI is bad manners. So it's a big buzzword, but what I liked, and we'll talk about it, it's not only a buzzword. Actually, it was the first time I felt like learning technologies are not lagging behind 10 years, behind everything else, like recruitment or IT in general,
Or even on the technology side, it's always been like iPhones have been around for 10 years at least. There are tons of amazing apps that can do things for you, and you can see learning management platforms showing that, hey, now we have a mobile enabled interface or something. Or same thing happened with video, and YouTube was already making billions a year. Platforms are like, yeah, you can actually stream videos from us now in like almost like YouTube and so on. So I think that's also a part of why AI is a more important change to to everything pretty much, but also in learning, is because of the speed of this momentum that is happening. Like it's a tsunami kind of revolution. It's probably the first time when we can actually be talking about revolution without this sounding like a buzzword.
Yeah.
Right. So the first point that I have from you is informed decisions.
Yeah. One of the pleasant surprises, hearing what speakers were talking about, but also the audience, the kind of questions that popped up and the reactions, is that finally it feels like learning and development starts to use data for real to do informed decisions, and actually starts working together with business, with somewhat, not always, but often with a seat at the table, and really basing learning decisions on certain data, not assumptions. So that was good to hear, because we've been preaching that for ages.
Data driven. Finally, it started driving, right?
It started driving, yes. So that was very pleasant.
But can you give me like a specific example?
An example?
Like what like. Let's say I'm an L&D manager in a company with a few thousand people, maybe like 10,000 people, and the way I operate every day is pretty much I have a sponsor coming to me saying that, hey, we need this new kind of training for a product procedure or something like that. I go ahead and build it. I launch it. I have typically what I look at that everyone has completed it. If it's scored, I can see that everyone has scored high enough so that it's a complete failure. If testing is involved and so on. What else? I know that with Sims, we looked at, for example, how many times people play the same simulation over and over, because the point of simulation is to actually guide you through a number of outcomes and different ways how things can happen. So you expect people to roll in place. What else? What's data driven today?
Yeah, I would say there are two things. In general, what I saw, and there was a good example from a big hotel chain, is that the whole learning and development, the whole academy, the way they structured it, they started with very clear KPIs, with very clear kind of idea of what we are measuring and what we are not measuring. I don't have a slide with me right now, but kind of they split it a little bit like we do it at INSEA. They had 3 levels. They were a bit different. One was efficiency, effectiveness, and then there was behavior change. So a little bit like we say, knowledge, skills, and behavior.
Yep.
And everything in the academy, all of the trainings, all of the things they are doing and producing, and they have to cater thousands of franchisees and also their own staff, as I understand. Everything started with a KPI, with a goal,
okay.
That we have to achieve this, sometimes more like a learning goal, sometimes more like a business goal, because it's a scale, we know that. And so I would say one thing was that data was finally used before you do something,
Okay.
Yeah, not like measuring the impact, but really before we decide, okay, let's teach somebody to someone, let's do it in this or that way, data was kind of in the picture, not your personal assumptions of what will work or not.
Yeah, and then you measure something, but you don't have a baseline to compare.
Yeah, everybody's happy, but, so it was like before and after, kind of the textbook way. So
right.
I heard that more and more.
Okay, so data-driven informed decisions, bullet 1. Next bullet, I have this for you.
Narrative of stakeholders. Okay.
As I understand, we're circling back to our favorite topic here of seat at the table.
Yeah, seat at the table and working with the others in the company. Yeah. So again, I really liked that. I think what I really remembered was that you have to get dangerous. You have to have enough knowledge. You have to be enough competent as an L&D professional to become dangerous.
Right.
And this buys you a place at the table, because when you are when you understand technology dangerously enough to talk to IT, they cannot dismiss you by saying, "Oh no, that will be difficult. No, this data. Oh no, that's a whole big endeavor to get this, to analyze that, to connect the dots, to doing the integration." So, if you become knowledgeable, you become dangerous, and people start, taking you into account. On the other hand, also talking to stakeholders as such, the whole idea of subject matter experts, educating them, involving business, and so that's all in the air. Yeah, that's.
It's actually an interesting angle. So we've been talking about seat at the table for a long time, and we were explaining how essentially learning people have to get to the C level of decision making, so you're not left out of decisions, and then you have to deal with the consequences very often. Like, people will come to you and say, "Hey, we've created this new software system for our company, or we've integrated something new. Now everyone needs to be trained." And you're like, well, it would be so great if we were part of the conversation from the very beginning, and we could work with the vendor, and now they don't work with us as closely because it has not been budgeted, because then we could have involved, maybe we could build learning into this, or maybe there could be data exchange and so on. All those nice things, sorry, we'll have to deal with like typical courses or something yet again, or a new product, a new advertising campaign. My go-to example is when a company, like a competing company, launched a product. It was a surprise launch to our client, two telecom companies. So our client had to come up with a sort of rebuttal product overnight, and they launched a new product essentially within a day. And it's a great, business. It's a great example of this high stakes business, when you can actually get everyone into the same room. You can brainstorm product. You can come up with marketing thing for that, and like you launch it within like 24 hours, and then only. At a point later, you remember, there's training people. We need to get them into the room as well, and they need to create this training.
Because our employees don't know about the product.
Yeah, because our employees are not aware of this product that we created overnight, and now we need to distribute it somehow, and now learning aren't doing a good job because they can't do that properly, and it took us a day to create it, and now they are saying it will take them 2 weeks to train everyone, and so on. So the seat at the table. But what you're saying is interesting, is you have to be how did you put it? You have to know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah,
I think it works not only with IT, right?
No,
IT cannot dismiss you with like, "Hey, this is data. We cannot do that." What do you know? Like, I know something, but you can do the same with pretty much everyone. You go to any production, or logistics, or product people in your company, and they will tell you, "Yeah, that's too difficult" or something. But if you can explain to them, like in 3 steps, why it's doable, they cannot dismiss you, and you have to.
Or you have data, because we so often we complain. I mean, the learning and development people, that again, SMEs or somebody imposes on us some learning solution that we know doesn't work. But if we have if we had analyzed similar cases before and had data at our hand saying, "Guys, the efficiency of this training is like 0.5%. Guys, let me do my job, because you see, this is the data." Again, it helps a lot. Otherwise, we're kind of becoming victims of it. But I was so happy to see that more and more people were do not have that problem anymore, that they are taken seriously. Maybe also because some kind of generation change happened. First time we were at the exhibition almost 15 years ago. So still new people come in.
We were 15 then,
yeah. Exactly. So now when you see those 25, 20-year-old people who are digital natives, as we like to call them, it's much harder to dismiss them. And they don't have this assumption that learning and development doesn't have the seat at the table. You just show up, you just show up and they say, okay, be part of this.
Occupy the boardroom. All right. My next point here that I have is micro-learning. Is this still a buzzword? I can't believe it, because you've just mentioned mentioned 15 years ago. Well, maybe not 15, but 10 years ago, definitely microlearning was all the rage. Everyone was saying that, hey, no one got time to go through like 1-2 hour programs and people need to consume. I think microlearning was like 15 minutes back then.
Oh, it's 15.
Today it's like, 15 minutes is a normal piece of content and like 3 minutes is micro. TikTok is bringing this down to mere seconds essentially. But like, are people still talking about this?
Yeah, it's still a buzzword. And by buzzword, I really mean buzzword.
As in
very, very little substance behind it.
Okay.
So it's still kind of, the talk still goes, and people have a shorter attention span, less time, more information. We have to kind of feed it in kind of nuggets or something. But in essence, no good example. Some of the speakers start to dismiss the whole notion that it never happened.
Okay.
If mobile learning, which was a big buzzword, somehow happened, and we see that with our customers, and I also talk to some other companies, say 50%, 70%, some say 20%, it depends, of course. But mobile learning is part of it. Micro learning is not. What is becoming part of the picture is that it's kind of evolved from micro learning into learning in the flow. In essence, that some platforms offer you solutions where learning, is integrated with Teams or integrated into software. So it's kind of close when you need it, but it's not like micro learning in a sense that we create a campaign and every day, 8 o'clock, we give you 5 minutes of content. That hasn't really happened.
I know why, because if your big content is crap and you've tried to feed it with a small spoon, it doesn't work. Yeah, but learning in the flow, that's actually interesting. I don't think I have this as one of the bullet points, but I wanted to touch upon it because I can see that in a lot of like complex systems, and I deal with systems like Microsoft Azure, right?
Yeah.
So you can probably do a PhD in it. And what I do, I just, I register, I log in, I start looking for things that I need. But then when I start clicking something or I go into a new dashboard for something, there's always a pop-up, and it's not like useless phrase saying like, hey, click on accounts to see your accounts, or click on billing to know more about billing. But it could be a micro video, or it can be like a few paragraphs of text which are related to that, and they are surprisingly helpful. So a lot of IT companies are embracing that in public, so to say. Even if you go to LinkedIn, right? So you start something new, like I was doing a LinkedIn webinar recently, and then there's a pop-up which explains how to do that and so on. Because of course it's driven by marketing, but as we always say, marketing always have the best approaches to changing people's behaviors and engaging people and driving them towards the goals that they think they are theirs. So this is something we can learn from. So maybe this micro learning pieces which are tied to specific contexts within either corporate systems or corporate products or some other context. I think it can even be physical, right? So if you approach, I don't know, my go-to example is coffee machine, which I haven't seen this morning yet. So you approach a coffee machine and you can't figure it out. There should be like a little iPad there, and you just click play, and it like guides you through in 4 steps of how to make a coffee if you haven't done this before. And okay, it can be funny, everyone knows how to use a coffee machine, but
but do they?
Some people use coffee machines of enormous complexity. So, but if it's an MFA, like this multifunctional appliance for like copying and scanning and everything. I was like a guest for a day in a co-working space, and they have this printer which is the size of a bus basically, and it can do everything. It has million types of paper, and it kept printing me. I don't know, maybe because it's someone else before me left it on this setting or something, but it kept printing my documents on A3. So like I was holding my documents like that, and like figuring it out on the fly in the stress, I have to like get those documents in hand like within 5 minutes and get back to my whatever I'm doing. I would so much appreciate like a little troubleshooting / tutorial attached to it in a physical space. That would be so great. And I'm sure we've been in way more situations, like safety maybe, right? So before you enter something, if you have your key card, you beep your key card, and instead of letting you into a dangerous production facility, for example, or not dangerous, maybe it needs to be sterile.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be secure in terms of data, what you can do and cannot do in there. Maybe there are certain rules of behavior inside, so that you don't bother people working in there, and so on. You beep it, even if you haven't been trained, and the card knows that.
And
Actually, you need to click through like 4 necessary tips on this little iPad, and then you can actually go in if you answer the questions correctly. The training in the form.
So basically, it's kind of what you're saying. To summarize, is how I feel about it like that. We were trying to think about micro learning as something proactive, in a sense that we will be feeding them something with a small spoon, and then eventually in 1 month's time they will have learned something bigger. But honestly, it only works when it's in a flow, on demand, because I need it right now. It's only about what I need right now. It's not something, like to build my competency over years. Yeah. And it's actually, life gets us there.
Right. So basically, next time someone tells you we're going to do this micro-learning approach, or this is what we're doing and so on, tell them, I know a guy who went to London and they told him, no, not like that at least.
Not like that.
Next bullet point is personalized learning. Again, buzzword for years and years now. Still a buzzword. Did it happen? What's up with that?
Yeah, we are getting there with AI, because this is the kind of the way something can be personalized on a deeper level. Right now, it is not happening. It's more of a gimmicks, I would say. And when you look at the solutions, you talk to people, you see what they're saying. We are kind of trying to do that, but honestly, it's not. It's sometimes we personalize it in a way we see the picture of the world. It is not the learning doesn't personalize itself for me personally as Ravis. No. It's Sergey thinking that Ravis needs micro learning. Okay. It's not Ravis by his behavior or choices creates a personalized experience for himself.
What's personalized also? Because a lot of people give an example of Netflix, and they say Netflix of learning, something like that. And to me, Netflix, well, first of all, Netflix is not a great example.
Yeah, let's start with that.
It's not a great company, not a great service. It used to be better, I think, but that's beside the point. And in terms of personalization, it's also not great, because when I switch on Netflix, I can see the things that I've touched last, and I can continue
watch again.
And this is what people in Latvia are watching. And this is like top 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe this is like top dramas or top award-winning something, but really like personalized. And I diligently went in, I put all the likes to things that I liked. I put double likes to things that I really liked, and in the category which is trying to show me, I'm still not like really dazzled. Like it's not really breathtaking what it offers me.
Yeah,
I still spend more time browsing Netflix than watching Netflix.
Exactly. Because
is it the same?
It is. Yeah, it's exactly the point that we are talking about Netflix of learning. But do really people need a Netflix of learning? Why would you need a Netflix of learning? No, what you need, I think, is that your learning is personalized to the contexts in which you are, which right now for us people in learning is very often obscure. The LMS doesn't know that I am now standing at that machine, you were talking about, and I need help with that machine. LMS will not know it, right? Most of the times. Or it will not know that, that I'm missing my KPIs and that actually I have to work more on upselling skills because, I'm down there and actually this is the first course that has to pop up. So so the context is not there, and while the context is not there, it's a Netflix of learning or YouTube of learning, but yeah.
All right.
It's not personalized.
Mixed reality, meaning VR, AR, all of that stuff.
Yeah, those watching us for years might have noticed that we've been consistently skeptical. I wouldn't say we dismiss the technologies of VR, AR at all, but we were quite conservative. I think it's the first time when I saw tools appearing on the market, like there's a cool company called RUVR. It's like ARUVR. And they are now creating really what they call the articulate storyline for VR and AR.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically you have this kind of, you don't have to deal with Unity and all these complex technologies to build it. So basically there's a lot pre-built for you. It's kind of drag and drop. Of course, it's nascent technology, but it's already something. So and by their estimate, it reduces tremendously the time of production. Yeah. Of course, there's a way to go. Of course, the AI will be in there as well, will helping you do that better. But now I see that we are approaching that point, especially given that the output of those things might not require, for example, the goggles. It can be the mobile phone, it can be the screen, and it's all kind of with one push of a button, So I think we're getting there. The question is how much, how it is used, and is it really a mixed reality, or it's one reality? I'm somewhere at my computer playing a game, and then I'm in the real reality, and it's a kind of a different reality. So getting those together is a challenge, I think.
Right, but the applications, because I understand how I could use mixed reality or entirely like virtual reality to train someone to fly a plane or to drive a tractor through a forest, or like sailors, people who, I don't know, fix pipes or do something on the railroad, like things where you're actually physically involved and maybe in dangerous environments and so on. For a typical office worker, is there a place for AR, for example? I think we're at an interesting intersection there, because some people are very, very, they're confident that one of the applications will be soft skills, that building VR, kind of experiences where people are trained soft skills. I don't know, but it doesn't sound completely impossible. No, I know of a company which is quite successfully doing public speaking training. In
public
virtual
speaking
reality, with actual interactive crowd, which will boo you off stage if you don't perform well.
And for so many people, really, that public speaking skill is not about being able to speak in public. It's the fear. It's the fear of what's called the lamp fever, or what's the name, when you get in front of people and you're just, the whole system shuts down and you cannot say a word. It's psychological.
I think you're describing Eminem's experience, or there's a song about this in 8 Mile.
Maybe.
Mom's spaghetti, knees are shaking, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And for some people, it would be nice to see that crowd in goggles first. It's still kind of a small step, but you're bridging that gap.
I'm like, you don't need to sell.
I'm not selling to you, but I'm just kind of thinking aloud. Let's not sell simulations here, right? That's one thing. The other thing, more on the AR onboarding. Interactive onboarding, because and safety training, anything related to onboarding in the office can be done with augmented reality, and it's much more fun, and it's much more. I'm walking and taking a look at those fire extinguishers and those plants and stuff. It's not me sitting at the computer again. So there are applications. The question is, where is the cost? so far the cost was so high that it was just not efficient. But it's going down.
Even when the cost is not like the key factor, it's also the speed of production.
Yeah, speed of production.
It's maintenance. It's ability to find the necessary skill set. It's a clunky process. Like every time we consider a VR project or AR, something like that, you're like, oh, it's a project, right? It's for anyone involved, it's a risk of delays, of not getting what you envisioned and so on. Even if you have all the money to pay, still doesn't buy you like guaranteed result and guaranteed time.
Absolutely not.
So yeah, that's a bit of a hassle. My last point here that I have, and then we will talk about 3 products, is AI and maturity. So it's not AI maturity, it's 2 things.
Yeah, it's AI and maturity. Yeah, I think it's a key point here, and I really liked people talking about it. That yes, AI brings us a lot of value. There are very clear applications. Some of them we probably will address right now. But are our organizations and people ready for it? Because if we've been struggling so far, people using Teams or using track changes in Word for 20 years they've been there, and people still struggle, commenting documents, then we bring AI into the picture. Will it really work? Because the problem will be our digital skills, our ability to learn, our ability to live in new environment. And there is this also psychological factor. A lot of people now are in stress because they see that the technology is just slipping away from them, because it's just the speed. And with the AI, they don't really understand what it is, but then they only thought it will steal my job, So the maturity of organization and of maturity of learning will be paramount.
I also think we can talk about cultural maturity maybe, because already now I have friends who are in recruitment and in HR, and they say the amount of cover letters, resumes, which are obviously generated by ChatGPT.
GTP.
My economist background is kicking. By all sorts of AI is overwhelming.
Yeah,
and you can see that as a recruiter, and when you see that someone has written you a letter where they used AI, you might think not too highly of them. If you wanted them to show an effort. And in their cover letter, same thing within the organization, right? If I show up to let's say I work in a large organization and I show up to a meeting and I don't expect much of that meeting anyhow, because I know what presentation skills our people have. I know that the slides will not be really legible, and so on. And now I see that slides or whole speeches or something has been produced by AI, or I know that the learning content that our organization produces is not great. It's a lot of boring reading. It's not always nicely written and formatted and so on. The videos are not of great quality. The sound is a struggle. Training in our organization is not great. And suddenly there is AI, which instead of helping, making audio clearer, making texts easier to read, instead of that, I get a video which is produced based on that same terrible text, but now it's a video, and I have to sit and watch through this and struggle with AI voice and so on and so on. It can become a nightmare really, really easily, and can make a bad situation worse, not because of our technological readiness, but because of our culture and lack of our skills. It's essentially, if we are not very good with a hammer, and we receive a jackhammer, probably we're gonna
chop some
do more damage, but not necessarily do more work.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not exactly the same kind of revolution, but at some point PowerPoint appeared, but because of PowerPoint appearing, people did not become better speakers, or better narrators or better teachers. The same is here. We will get tons of crappy videos, tons of crappy slides produced by AI with no instructional design or creativity or, in-depth prompt skills, in there. So yeah, as always, as with any other, or like remember cars. When cars appeared, what happened? A lot of traffic accidents happened before the rules were invented because people just were driving like crazy at 20 kilometers per hour, which was a lot those days. And so what this will happen again. So get ready. Yeah, it will not solve your problems. One more important thing is that when we talk about learning development and AI, very often people concentrate on how it will help learning and development people exactly by producing videos, sound, translation, slides, whatever you need. We are very rarely kind of thinking about how AI will change our organization, and thus we at learning and development will need to change the way we work to cater that new AI-powered business we're in. Very little is talked about that. We're talking about us as a department who gets a new gadget, so to say.
Right.
So
and then the product. But before that, I don't know. Do you see the chat? Because I can see my full screen presentation here.
I see. Yeah, I see the chat. Yeah, stage fright. It's called stage fright. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the name. Thank you, David. Okay.
Let's jump into the product.
Yeah, let's jump into the product.
I received like three brand names. So there's Fuse, and I know Fuse. I think they're British-born learning management system.
Yeah, honestly, it's just overwhelming there. I cannot give a lot of information on that company, but yeah, it's in a kind of LXP, LMS kind of product. The amazing thing is that for those companies that need a lot of translation, all of the translation happens on the platform. I don't know how good it is. Right, and different languages have different levels of quality of translation by AI. We understand that, but I think it's a great. I mean, I'm not talking about the product, but the whole approach is great. That all of the translation, localization can happen on the platform, and you don't have to involve so many people into that process, because the translation process is a nightmare very often. And to be honest, translation agencies were one of the saddest on the conference or on the exhibition. I felt bad for the guys because they will have to reinvent the business completely, because a lot of their work will be now substituted. Very often it will be very poor result before people go back and ask for quality service or some mixture.
Like my or our experience with translation isn't. Well, frankly, I don't think highly of translation agencies. I understand what they do, but I also understand their business model, which is scale up, get cheapest people possible, outsource where you can, save on quality control very often, and so on. And we've had terrible cases where we would create a course with a customer, we would send the master version to an agency to localize in, let's say, in 15 languages.
Yeah.
We get those languages back, we put the localized content back into the course. We send this course to the customers. They send it to actual branches, and the branches say this doesn't work at all. And sometimes when we can check this ourselves, because internally we speak
I would say seven to eight languages natively, I would say, and some more at some good level.
When you look at that and you can stop that, you just wonder. And sometimes when you look at this translation and you ask yourself, like, how can that translation be done? Because if it was automated even years ago with Google Translate, at least the spelling would be correct, because Google Translate will use the wrong word or will use wrong grammar, but it always spell correctly. It does no incorrect spellings, but this is spelled incorrectly. So obviously some human did this, but how can human
do it worse than
do worse than a very poor automated translation system before in the years before. So what we ended up basically, and you can take this as advice, what we ended up basically was we translated this using internal resources of companies. We would enable the local Czech branch, for example, to create the translation into Czech language.
Very often it's done locally
because they know the jargon, they know exactly what they're talking about. The topics can be very, very specific with tons of abbreviations.
Alternatively,
sometimes they will also do the sanity check on whether it is so in this local market, because when content is localized, not just translated, some things locally just don't work like that on a legal level or an operational level.
Cultural. I mean, this way of talking to a customer.
And cultural specific to this company.
And specific to this company. Another workaround is using term sheets. Is basically agreeing, kind of professional translators that would find all of the terms and all of the jargon in English if it's master version, and then we will send it to different branches and get it. But it has been a pain. That's why getting very good translation agency, or rather specific translators for specific languages, is a great value.
That is also one of my biggest kind of problems with agencies, is that they're agencies in the truest sense of form, right? It's an agent who will contract your job out to someone, and that someone can be good or not, and there is very little experience building when you work day after day or year after year with the same agency. You expect them to learn your style, your demands, your requirements, your jargons, and so on. But with translation agencies, it's someone new on every project, sometimes in the middle of the project.
So we are seeing some nascent technologies where at least part of that can be automated, done free of charge, and then you can, of course, tweak it to your needs. What's next?
That's Articulate Rise and Articulate storyline, I think, in general.
Great and a pleasant surprise was a demonstration by Articulate of the new version of Rise, which will be AI powered. They said something around summer or autumn being the release date. The idea is very simple. You throw content on it and it already builds something in for you, pre-built. It basically eliminates that first step of you kind of choosing templates and putting it together. Of course, let's be realistic. It will not be like, okay, I've got this crappy presentation or crappy code of conduct, or legally written code of conduct, not crappy, sorry, legally written. I throw it on Rise, and Rise produces a super engaging course. No, it won't, but it will give you that kickstart of thinking how to put different stuff in the training, to see straight away what works, what doesn't work, So it's good. It's kind of a first draft, because as Sergey yesterday said, that for him it's much easier to criticize someone else's written text and rewrite in a proper manner than to write it from scratch, which I think is true for us all. We need this input. We need this kind of first
I don't know
impulse
in like very general terms, but to me personally that's definitely true. The way I work with ChatGPT, for example, is I will ask it to formulate. Let's say I need to write 2 paragraphs explaining something. I will say, write me 2 paragraphs explaining this and that. It will write this. I will look at this. Since I know the topic, I know if I agree or disagree with this. I know if something has been missed or not, and so on. But at least I have this text, and I will rewrite it completely. I will end up with 2 paragraphs which are entirely different from that. Maybe they are worded in my language and so on. But for me, it's easier to kind of criticize someone's work and rewrite this rather than write something from scratch. It's not that I have this fear of a blank page, unless
No,
I'm writing
no.
fiction. That's terrible. Or
But it just gets you thinking.
But yeah, this is how I operate.
Yeah, it's a great
so
stimulus.
Yeah, so maybe with Rise it's similar, but also I know that's from me. I looked into what Storyline does. Storyline are bringing text to video, in the sense that you can just type up text for a presenter, and it will generate an AI avatar of a person. You can select which kind of person, which kind of voice, and which kind of layout, and will generate you a video. So instead of like grabbing a camera and recording someone, you can do that, and then a ton of things that you typically do by copying out of the course, throwing it to ChatGPT, asking it to fix it somehow, and then copying it back. It's done inside Storyline now, so you can select a paragraph and say, can you shorten this to essentially fit the text box or something like that? Can you rephrase, or can you make bullet points out of this text, and so on? It will do it for you. So essentially, instead of back and forth with a third-party system, it's more at your fingertips inside the tool. So yeah, exciting things are coming. By the way, if you're following Brainstruck, we have very much similar things coming, also within the same time frame. And finally, there's Beyond, previously known as Go Animate, and that actually, I know I've looked at this. It's also kind of exciting. So the idea is that you write a script for what you need to happen in the video as best as you can. You say, I need two people meeting, and one of them will be a lawyer, and another one of them will be a person who's filling out their tax form, and they will be talking about this, and that. And you just throw it in, and it just creates all the assets for you. Unlike this magically generated Sora videos, which we talked about, a couple of breakfasts back, it's animation based on specific characters. So it gives you not just a video file, but a project and Beyond, where if you want, you can replace text, scenes, and so on. But the technical part from writing a script to actually building it scene by scene is done by AI, and then it's up to you to just tweak it, which takes a lot of purely technical work off you, which I think is great. I haven't tried it yet, but I really want to. It seems like a nicer approach and more controllable approach than just generating videos from scratch, because those things will still have 6 fingers and whatnot for the longest time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and these are more schematic, so sometimes it's easier to make a point with some animated story, because you can really highlight the key things, whereas in videos it will take you a little bit more of directing and prompting and dealing with it. Sometimes just doesn't make a lot of sense.
I'm a big believer in cartoons in the sense that they convey.
They work since people started drawing on the walls in the caves. So with us.
They do convey ideas even better than more realistic images. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. We've been here for 50 minutes. Let us know what you think of this new format, if that works for you. I personally super enjoyed not being the one who talks too much. I'm super I love listening to you, man. But with our normal breakfast,
we usually prepare a lecture.
Prepare a lecture, and we'll
not
lecture
a discussion.
To you. Yes, and since I typically make the slide, I'm the one to talk and so on. But I know this one was really interesting. Let us know what you think about this, and if you want to know more and have more content like this, there's a whole YouTube channel for you. Just Google Intel Learning YouTube, you'll find that. And
let us know. Let us know in chat right now if you like this new format. And
type a smiley.
Whilst you do that, one of the things we didn't mention are that our partners Docebo are also doing some AI stuff there. As soon as we will be able to show it, we'll show it in one of the breakfasts, I think. But I don't have the visual for now, but it's exciting.
I think it's worth not mentioning in passing, but doing a whole thing about when we actually have more of that. I know what you're talking about, and it's borderline magic at this point. So once we know exactly how it works and we have something to show, we'll share.
Yeah.
For now, thanks, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. If you have an idea for the next breakfast, let us know. But I had an idea while we were talking.
Yeah.
And that was learning in the flow or learning inside the context. Let's
think about that.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Just for next. But if you have something else to offer for the future, we're happy to hear. And on that note, thank you and have a great day.
Yeah. Bye-bye.